The deep space station Haven's Reach floated in the black ocean of space, a silver ring turning slowly around a quiet star. Inside its long corridors, humans and aliens worked side by side, learning to share air, food, and culture. It was a place of exchange, a bridge between many worlds. For Marcus Hale, a human engineer from Earth, it was also his home for the last 2 years. Marcus was used to long hours, machine repairs, and the endless hum of generators. What he was not used to was sharing his quarters with an alien. But rules of the Haven's Reach exchange program demanded cultural contact, and so he had agreed. His new roommate was Kalira, an officer from the aquatic species called the Lyris. The Lyris were strange to him. They came from a water world covered in endless oceans. Their tall, slender forms were covered in shimmering skin that looked like scales in the right light. Their dark eyes reflected like mirrors, showing more than they revealed. They breathed air but needed constant moisture to stay strong. Most Lyris lived in special chambers filled with vapor and soft blue light. Kalira was the first to ever live outside those chambers for more than a few hours. At first, Marcus thought the arrangement would be simple. They would nod politely, exchange short words, and go about their work. But Kalira was quiet, almost too quiet. She spent long hours watching the stars from the viewport, her face unreadable. She rarely spoke unless asked. Marcus wondered why she had even chosen to join the exchange. One late evening, after finishing repairs in the reactor core, Marcus returned to his quarters. The air smelled faintly of salt water, stronger than usual. He frowned, placing his toolkit on the floor. Something was wrong. The quarters were dim, only the small blue nightlight glowing by the wall. He stepped inside and froze. On his bed lay Kalira. Her long form was curled awkwardly, her arms close to her chest, her skin looking pale and dry. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. Marcus's heart jumped in panic. "Kalira?" he called softly. Her eyes fluttered open, dark and distant. She blinked slowly as if trying to focus. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice like a ripple of water. He rushed to her side, kneeling. "What are you doing here?" "Your chambers. Why didn't you stay there?" She tried to sit up, but her strength failed her. Marcus quickly pulled a thermal blanket and placed it around her. He grabbed a spray bottle of saline mist, which he had been told was essential for Lyra's health, and sprayed her skin gently. Her body shivered under the cool droplets, but her breathing steadied a little. "You should not," she began, then coughed weakly. I needed to be here," Marcus frowned. None of this made sense. "You could have called me. Why risk collapsing? You don't belong in these conditions, your body can't handle it." She looked at him with eyes that seemed too heavy, as if carrying a secret she could not put down. "Marcus," she whispered again, "there is something I must tell you. Something only you can know." He felt a chill despite the warm air. "What is it?" But she shook her head slowly, refusing to answer yet. "Not tonight. Not until I am strong again." Marcus sighed and leaned back, unsure what to do. He could have called medical, but something in her eyes told him not to. She was not in danger of dying, not yet. She simply looked fragile, like glass that could break with one wrong word. For the first time since she had moved in, Marcus noticed how small and vulnerable she seemed. She had always appeared calm, distant, and strong. Now she was trembling in his quarters, depending on him. "Rest," Marcus said softly. "I'll stay here." Kalira closed her eyes, and for a long time the only sound was her steady, fragile breathing. Hours passed, but Marcus could not sleep. He sat in the small chair by his desk, watching her in the dim light. His mind spun with questions. Why had she come here? Why risk her health? What secret was she hiding? The clock on the wall showed midnight station time. Marcus rubbed his eyes. He thought about sending a message to the Lyris delegation, but then remembered her words. "Only you can know." At last, Kalira stirred. Her eyes opened again, and she slowly sat up with Marcus's help. Her skin looked better, glowing faintly under the mist he had sprayed earlier. She sat silently for a while, staring at the viewport where stars burned like white fire in the void. "You wonder why I came?" she said softly. "Yes," Marcus admitted. "I don't understand." Her gaze did not leave the stars. "Because I cannot do this alone anymore." Marcus leaned forward. "Do what?" She turned her eyes to him then, deep and unreadable. "Live." The single word struck him harder than he expected. It was not said dramatically, but with quiet truth, the kind that weighed down the air around them. "Kalira," Marcus began, but his voice faltered. He wanted to ask, but her face told him she would not explain further yet. Instead, she asked, "Do you ever fear the silence of space?" Marcus blinked at the sudden question. Sometimes, he admitted. It can feel too big, too empty. But I try not to think about it. For me, she whispered, silence is louder than sound. It eats the mind. It pulls at me. She placed a hand against her temple. That is why I came here. Not to your quarters, Marcus. To you. The words confused him even more, but before he could press further, she closed her eyes again. Not tonight. Tomorrow, perhaps. You will understand. Marcus sat back, speechless. He did not know what to say or do. He only knew one thing. His life on Haven's Reach had just changed forever. The next morning, Marcus left for work with heavy thoughts. He repaired broken panels, replaced worn circuits, and answered calls for assistance, but his mind stayed with Kalira. He kept remembering her voice saying, I came to you. When he returned to his quarters, he found her awake, standing by the viewport. She was wrapped in his blanket, looking out at the stars. She turned as he entered, and for the first time since he met her, she smiled. It was small, faint, but real. Thank you, she said softly. For what? Marcus asked, setting down his tools. For not asking too much. For letting me rest. Marcus crossed his arms. I still want answers, Kalira. You will have them, she promised. Her voice was calm but heavy with something deeper. But what I ask of you will change everything. Once I tell you, there will be no return. Marcus's chest tightened. He did not know why, but he believed her. That night, as the station lights dimmed to simulate dusk, Marcus lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Kalira's words echoed in his mind. There will be no return. And deep inside, he knew she was right. The days after Kalira's sudden collapse passed quietly on Haven's Reach. But for Marcus Hale, nothing felt the same anymore. His roommate was different. She still kept her calm silence, but now there was a weight between them, a heavy pause whenever their eyes met. It was as if a truth hung in the air, waiting to be spoken. Marcus found himself watching her more often. He noticed small details he had missed before. The way her eyes reflected starlight like water catching fire. The way she pressed her fingers against her temple when she was tired. The way she paused before answering any question as though she measured each word carefully. He wanted to press her for answers, but every time he opened his mouth, something stopped him. Perhaps it was her fragile look that night she had collapsed in his quarters. Perhaps it was the quiet respect she had shown him when she said, I came to you, but questions could not remain unanswered forever. On the fifth evening, Marcus entered his quarters to find Kalira waiting for him. She was not standing by the viewport as usual. Instead, she sat cross-legged on the floor, her long hands resting on her knees. A faint mist of moisture clung to her skin, glowing in the blue light. She looked calm, but there was a seriousness in her eyes. Marcus, she said softly, sit with me. Her voice carried no request. It was closer to a command, though gentle. Marcus set down his tools and joined her on the floor, sitting across from her. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the station's systems filled the silence. Then Kalira drew a slow breath. I have delayed long enough. It is time I tell you why I came to your quarters that night. Marcus leaned forward, his heart beating faster. You already know, she continued, that my kind cannot travel far from our oceans without help. The body weakens, the mind begins to fade. The vapor chambers we use keep us alive, but they are not enough for long journeys. Marcus nodded. He had heard this much from station doctors. What you may not know, she said, is that our minds are made to connect. In the deep waters of our homeworld, we are never alone. We sense each other through thought, through resonance. It is how we survive the endless oceans. Her eyes flickered, and Marcus saw a shadow of sadness there. But here, in the emptiness of space, that connection is lost. The silence grows. The silence consumes. Marcus frowned, remembering her words from that night. Silence is louder than sound. It eats the mind. She looked at him then, her voice quieter. To live among the stars, a Lyris must have an anchor, a partner who gives stability, who shares thought and emotion. Without one, we fall into madness. Marcus's breath caught. He had never heard of this before. An anchor? Yes, she said. It is a bond of mind and soul. It cannot be forced, only chosen. And very few outside my people can survive it. Her gaze sharpened, locking onto his. You, Marcus, are one of the few. I came to you because you can be my anchor. The words struck him like a shockwave. He stared at her, speechless. You want me to what? He finally managed. To share your mind with mine, she said simply. To become the center that holds me steady. To be my anchor. Marcus shook his head, struggling to process. That sounds... Impossible. Why me? Because humans are unique, Kalira said. Your minds adapt. They bend, but they do not break easily. I have searched. I have felt the resonance. And with you, it is strong. Stronger than I expected. Her words unsettled him. The thought of someone touching his mind, his emotions, his memories, it was terrifying. And what happens to me if I agree? Kalira hesitated. Her silence told him more than words. At last, she said quietly, anchors are changed. Sometimes, they are lost. Marcus's chest tightened. Lost? You mean they die? Not always, she said. But their minds shift. They may not be who they once were. Some survive, others fade. That is why our governments forbid anchors between species. It is seen as too dangerous, too costly. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. And you're asking me to do this anyway? Her eyes softened, almost pleading. Yes, because without an anchor I cannot last. The silence is already pulling at me. You saw it that night. I am running out of time. Marcus stood pacing the small room. His thoughts raced. He had fixed broken machines, rewired complex systems, and faced dangerous reactor leaks, but nothing compared to this. This was not about machines. This was about his mind, his life. You're asking me to give up everything I am, he said. I am asking you to save me, Kalira whispered. Her voice carried no drama, only truth. Marcus turned to look at her. She sat still on the floor, her eyes reflecting pain and hope all at once. The next day, Marcus could not focus on work. Every sound of machinery, every conversation with crew members faded into background noise. His thoughts returned again and again to Kalira's request. He remembered the way her voice trembled when she said the silence was pulling at her. He remembered her fragile body lying in his quarters, her life slipping away, and he remembered the weight in her words. Once I tell you, there will be no return. By the time he returned to his quarters, his chest was heavy with decision. Kalira was waiting for him again, standing by the viewport. She turned as he entered, her eyes questioning. You're serious about this, Marcus said quietly. Yes, she replied. He rubbed his face, tired and conflicted. If I do this, I could lose myself. If I don't, you'll fade. Either way, someone loses. Kalira stepped closer. Not someone, we. If you anchor me, we both risk everything. But we also both may live. Marcus met her gaze. He saw no deception there, only raw truth. Finally, he nodded slowly. I'll try. Kalira's eyes widened slightly, as if she had not truly expected him to agree. You will? Yes, Marcus said firmly. But only a trial. You said there's a way to test it? Then we try. If it's too much, we stop. Her lips curved in the faintest smile, the first real one he had seen from her. Agreed. That night they prepared. Kalira dimmed the lights until the room glowed faintly blue. She knelt on the floor, motioning for Marcus to sit across from her. Close your eyes, she instructed softly. Breathe slowly. Do not resist what you feel. Marcus swallowed hard but obeyed. Kalira reached forward, her cool fingers resting lightly against his temples. Our minds will touch, she whispered. Do not fight the current. Let it flow. At first Marcus felt nothing. Then a faint pressure grew inside his head like a wave pushing against his thoughts. Images flickered behind his closed eyes. Shadows of water, light bending beneath waves, strange songs that vibrated in his bones. His chest tightened. He wanted to pull back, but her voice reached him, calm and steady. Do not resist. The wave grew stronger, and suddenly he was there, not in his quarters, but in an endless ocean. The water was dark, glowing faintly with creatures drifting in the deep. He felt pressure all around him, yet he could breathe. Beside him, Kalira swam, her form glowing like silver light in the water. Her voice echoed in his mind, not with words, but with feelings. Loneliness, fear, hope, and something else. Trust, Marcus gasped and opened his eyes. He was back in his quarters, sweating, trembling. Kalira still sat before him, her hands on his temples, her own body shaking. That was, he began. The beginning, she whispered. Her eyes locked onto his. Now you understand. Alone, I cannot last. With you, I can. Marcus's chest rose and fell rapidly. He felt drained but alive. He had seen her world, her truth, and deep inside he knew. Life on Haven's Reach would never be the same again. The trial of the anchor bond began quietly. There was no ceremony, no grand preparation. Only two beings sitting across from each other in a small human cabin on Haven's Reach. Yet for Marcus, it felt as if the entire weight of the universe rested on his shoulders. Every night since Kalira's request, his thoughts had been restless. He replayed the glimpse of her world he had seen, the endless water, the strange glowing life forms, the crushing silence that haunted her. It had not been a dream. It had been a true connection. And though it lasted only moments, it had shaken him to his core. Kelaira had warned him.
Anchors are changed.
He could lose himself. But she had also looked at him with eyes that seemed to plead silently, "Without you, I will not survive." That truth gnawed at Marcus's heart. He had never been the kind of man to ignore someone in need. Machines, people, it didn't matter. If something was broken, he wanted to fix it. And Kelaira was breaking. On the night they chose to attempt a longer bond, Marcus prepared as best he could. He dimmed the cabin lights, cleared the floor space, and tried to steady his breathing. Kelaira stood by the viewport, her silhouette outlined by the stars beyond. When she turned, her expression was calm, but her hands trembled slightly. "Are you ready?" she asked. Marcus gave a short, uneasy laugh. "No, but let's do it anyway." Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. She crossed the room and sat opposite him on the floor. They both folded their legs, sitting close enough that their knees nearly touched. "Close your eyes," Kelaira said softly. "This time I will not only show you, I will let you feel. Do not resist the tide." Marcus swallowed, nodded, and shut his eyes. Her cool hands touched his temples again. A warmth spread across his head, then deep into his chest. It was like stepping into water. At first only ankle deep, then waist high, then over his head. The wave returned, but this time he did not resist. Suddenly, Marcus was no longer in his quarters. He was drifting through Kelaira's world again. The ocean stretched endlessly, glowing faintly with strange lights. Shadows of great creatures moved in the distance, their songs vibrating through the water. Kelaira swam beside him, her form brighter here than in reality, almost shining. Her voice reached him. Not through his ears, but through his mind. "Do not fear. Breathe as I breathe." He drew breath, and though he was underwater, the air came easily. His panic faded. For a moment, awe replaced fear. He saw beauty in the alien sea, floating gardens of luminous plants, silver fish darting like sparks, towers of coral glowing faintly in the deep. But then the ocean darkened. The glowing creatures faded. The silence returned, heavy and pressing. Marcus felt it like a weight on his chest, pulling at his mind, dragging him into emptiness. Kelaira's voice trembled inside him. "This is what waits for me without an anchor." The silence grows. It devours thought, memory, hope. I will vanish into it. Marcus felt her fear, raw, cold, unending. His own thoughts began to blur, his sense of self pulling thin. He gasped, and the vision shattered. He opened his eyes with a start, gasping for breath. Sweat ran down his forehead. Across from him, Kelaira shook violently, her hands falling away from his head. "Marcus," she whispered weakly. "You pulled back." He rubbed his temples, breathing hard. It felt like I was drowning. In nothing. Like I was being erased. She lowered her gaze. "Yes, that is the silence. Without an anchor, it consumes me. But if you remain with me, if you hold on, it will not win." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "You want me to hold against that?" It almost broke me in seconds. Her eyes lifted, shining with determination. "It is not only pain. There is also light. We must try again." The second attempt came the next night. Marcus was nervous but determined. He had promised to try, and he would not walk away. Again, Kelaira guided him into her mind. Again, the ocean surrounded him. But this time, when the silence pressed in, Marcus fought it. He clung to his sense of self, repeating his name, his memories, his purpose, and then he felt something new. Kelaira reached for him, not with hands, but with thought. She pressed her memories into his mind. Laughter under alien waves, the comfort of her people singing together, the peace of floating in warm seas. Her memories wrapped around his fear, steadying him. The silence retreated slightly. Marcus gasped with relief. He felt Kelaira's gratitude like a warm current flowing through him. "Yes," she whispered in his mind, "that is it. Together we can resist." But the bond had a price. Over the next few days, Marcus began to notice changes. At first they were small. He caught himself humming low, echo-like tones that he had never heard before. When he closed his eyes at night, he felt phantom pressure, like water pressing against his body. He even found himself craving more salt in his food, something he had never liked much before. He told himself it was imagination, but deep down he knew. The bond was changing him, and it was not only him. Kelaira, too, was shifting. She moved with more energy, her skin glowing brighter. She spoke more often, no longer lost in silence. She began asking Marcus questions about Earth, about rivers, lakes, oceans. She seemed hungry for connection, no longer hiding behind quiet walls. Yet every time Marcus looked in the mirror and saw his own tired eyes, he wondered, how much of me will be left when this is over? One evening, after a particularly strong bonding session, Marcus lay on his bunk, too weak to move. Kalira sat nearby, watching him with concern. "You gave too much tonight," she said quietly. "I felt your strength weaken." Marcus forced a smile. "I'm still here, aren't I?" Her eyes softened. "For now. But you must not give until you vanish. That would defeat everything." He looked at her, exhaustion in his gaze. "Kalira, tell me the truth. How many anchors survive?" She hesitated, then lowered her eyes. "Few." The word struck him hard, though he had expected it. "And yet," she added, lifting her gaze, "those who do survive are never ordinary again. They carry more than themselves. They carry the bond. They are more." Marcus let out a tired laugh. "More or less, I haven't decided yet." Kalira tilted her head slightly, a gesture almost like curiosity. "You joke, even at the edge. That is very human." As days turned into weeks, their bond deepened. Marcus learned to hold against the silence, and Kalira learned to guide him through her world without letting him drown in it. Together they formed a rhythm, but the bond did not go unnoticed. Station officials began to whisper. Marcus's co-workers noticed his strange habits, the humming, the distant look in his eyes, the way he sometimes stared at water systems too long. Some avoided him, others questioned him, and one day, Commander Rel, the station's security chief, called him in. "You've been spending a lot of time with the Lyris officer," Rel said, his sharp eyes watching Marcus closely. "More than regulation allows." Marcus kept his voice calm. "She's my roommate. It's natural we spend time together." Rel leaned closer. "Be careful, Hale. The Council forbids deep bonds with alien minds. They say it changes people, sometimes destroys them." Marcus forced a polite smile. "I'll keep that in mind." But as he walked back to his quarters, his chest tightened. He knew the commander's warning was not idle. If the Council discovered the truth, both he and Kalira would face punishment. That night, Kalira sensed his unease. "They suspect," she said simply. Marcus nodded. Rel asked questions. "They'll be watching us." Her eyes darkened. "Then we must be careful. If they force us apart now, the silence will take me." Marcus clenched his fists. The thought of her slipping into madness because of some council law filled him with anger. "Then they won't find out," he said firmly. Kalira looked at him, her gaze steady. "You are risking your life, Marcus." He met her eyes without hesitation. "So are you. And I'm not letting you do it alone." That night their bond was stronger than ever. The silence pressed in, but Marcus held firm. Kalira's voice sang through his mind, guiding him, steadying him. And for the first time, Marcus did not feel fear. He felt strength. When the bond ended, Kalira looked at him with something new in her eyes. Gratitude, yes, but also respect and something close to trust deeper than words. "You are different from others," she said softly. "Humans, you endure. Even when you break, you endure." Marcus smiled faintly, though exhaustion pulled at him. "Maybe that's what makes us human." Kalira tilted her head, thoughtful. "Perhaps it is what makes you more than human." And in that quiet moment, Marcus realized something. The bond was no longer only about saving her. It was changing both of them, weaving their lives together in ways neither could escape. And deep inside, Marcus wondered, was he ready for what came next? The bond between Marcus and Kalira had grown stronger with each passing day. At first, it had been fragile, like a thin thread stretched between two minds. But now it was more like a rope, pulling them together no matter how hard the outside world tried to separate them. Marcus felt it in everything he did. He dreamed in water now, his nights filled with visions of Kalira's ocean world. He heard songs that no one else could hear, low, humming tones that calmed him in moments of stress. Sometimes when Kalira was near, he felt her emotions before she spoke a word. Kalira changed as well. She no longer seemed like the quiet, fragile alien who had first entered his quarters. Her movements carried strength, her eyes no longer shadowed by silence. She spoke with more life, and sometimes when she looked at Marcus, her eyes shone with a strange warmth. They both knew the risk. They both knew someone would notice. But neither of them wanted to stop. One morning, Marcus was called to Commander Rel's office again. The tall, sharp-eyed officer stood behind his desk, hands clasped tightly behind his back. "Engineer Hale," Rel began, his voice flat. "We have reports about your behavior. People say you're different." That you speak strangely, that you hum to yourself. Some even say your eyes look wrong in certain light. Marcus's stomach tightened, but he forced his face calm. I've been working long hours. Maybe I'm tired. That's all. Rel's gaze sharpened. And Officer Kalira? You spend nearly every hour with her. Marcus kept his voice level. She's my assigned roommate. I can't exactly avoid her. Rel leaned forward. You know the rules. No deep psychological or emotional bonds with alien species. It's forbidden for a reason. I want your word, Hale, that you haven't crossed that line. Marcus's throat felt dry. He wanted to lie easily, but the bond inside him pulsed, and he felt Kalira's presence even though she wasn't there. He forced himself to nod. Of course, Commander. You have my word. Rel's eyes lingered on him, searching for cracks. Then he leaned back. Be careful, Hale. If you're hiding something, it won't stay hidden. When Marcus returned to his quarters, Kalira was waiting. She must have felt his unease through their bond because she didn't ask what had happened. Instead, she said quietly, They are watching us. Marcus nodded. Rel suspects. If they find out the truth, it won't just be you in trouble, it'll be me too. Kalira's eyes darkened. If they take me away, the silence will consume me. And if they punish you, it may destroy you. The thought filled Marcus with anger. They don't understand. They think this bond is dangerous, but they don't see what it gives us. We're stronger together. Kalira studied him for a long moment. Would you still say that if the bond destroys your mind? Marcus hesitated, then answered firmly, Yes, because at least I'll know I chose it, and I won't let you fade alone. Her eyes softened, and for the first time she reached out her hand. Not in ritual, not in guidance, but in something almost human. Marcus took it. Their fingers twined, cool against warm. Neither spoke. Words were no longer needed, but their secret did not last. 3 nights later, alarms rang through the station. Marcus jumped from his bunk, heart pounding. The sound was not the usual drill, it was sharper, urgent. Over the comms, a voice shouted, Unauthorized psychic activity detected. All exchange officers report to control. Marcus froze. He felt Kalira tense beside him. They've detected the bond, she whispered. Before Marcus could answer, the door slid open. 2 security officers stood outside, weapons at their sides. Engineer Hale, Officer Kalira, you're to come with us. Marcus's fists clenched. Why? Council orders, one officer replied. Both of you are under investigation for illegal resonance bonding. Kalira's face remained calm, but her eyes flickered with despair. Marcus felt it through the bond, a deep, sinking hopelessness. They followed the guards silently through the halls, past curious eyes of humans and aliens alike. Marcus kept his shoulders straight, but inside his mind was a storm. They were brought to the council chamber, a wide circular room where representatives of many species sat behind glowing desks. At the center stood Commander Rel, his expression grim. Marcus Hale, Kalira of Lyris, Rel began, his voice echoing in the chamber. You are accused of violating council law by forming a forbidden anchor bond. Do you deny it? Marcus opened his mouth, but Kalira spoke first. I do not deny it. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Rel's eyes narrowed. You admit it? Kalira lifted her chin. Yes, I chose Marcus as my anchor. Without him, the silence would have destroyed me. One of the alien counselors hissed. That is no excuse. The law exists because such bonds are unstable. Humans should not meddle with Lyris minds. This could bring disaster. Marcus felt Kalira's despair rising, pressing into his chest. He couldn't stay silent. You're wrong, Marcus said, stepping forward. I've seen what the bond does. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it changes us. But it doesn't destroy, it creates. It makes us stronger. I've felt her silence. I've seen what she suffers. Without me, she'd be gone. And without her, I'd still be just an engineer fixing machines. Together, we're something more. Rel's voice cut like steel. You risk not only yourselves, but the station. If the bond breaks uncontrolled, it could tear both minds apart. It could even spread instability through others. We cannot allow this. Kalira turned to Marcus, her eyes heavy with sorrow. Marcus, if I break the bond, they may spare you. But if I hold to it, they will punish you. I cannot let you be destroyed because of me. Her words felt like a knife in his chest. You'd give up the bond? Even if it kills you? Yes, she whispered. If it saves you, Marcus's world tilted. He saw it all in a flash, the silence taking Kalira, her mind fading into emptiness, her body hollow. And himself left behind, safe but alone. He couldn't accept it. No, Marcus said, his voice strong. I won't let you break it. Kalira looked at him in shock. Marcus, he stepped forward, facing the council. You say the bond is dangerous. You say it destroys, but you're wrong. I'm proof. I'm standing here alive. Yes, I'm changed, but I'm still me, and Kalira is stronger than ever. You forbid this because you're afraid. But humanity didn't come to the stars to hide. We came to connect, to learn, to endure. If you tear us apart, you'll be killing her, and you'll be proving that your laws care more about fear than about life. The chamber erupted in whispers. Some counselors frowned in anger, others looked thoughtful. Commander Rel slammed his hand against the desk. Enough, the council will decide. Guards removed them, but before he could finish, Kalira stepped forward. She lifted her hand and the bond pulsed between her and Marcus. A faint shimmer spread through the room like ripples of water. Gasps filled the chamber as counselors felt for the first time a taste of what the bond truly was. They felt Kalira's silence pressing in, the emptiness that would have consumed her. They felt Marcus's strength holding against it, steady and unyielding. And they felt the merging, not destruction, but balance. When the shimmer faded, silence hung heavy. One counselor, an elderly human, spoke first.
What we felt
Was not chaos. It was harmony. Another alien shook his head. But the risk, the elder interrupted, is the price of progress. If no one dares, nothing changes. Rel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Kalira turned to Marcus, her eyes shimmering with tears she could not shed. You should not have done that, her voice whispered in his mind. I had to, Marcus replied silently, because I won't lose you. The council chamber buzzed with debate. Some argued to punish them, others to study the bond. But one truth had been shown. The anchor bond was not only danger, it was possibility. That night, Marcus and Kalira were returned to their quarters under heavy watch. The council had not decided their fate yet. They could still be separated, still punished. Marcus sat on his bunk, head in his hands. Kalira stood near him, silent for a long time. At last she said softly, Why do you fight so hard for me? You could have let me go. You could be free now. Marcus lifted his head, his eyes tired but steady. Because freedom without you isn't worth it. Kalira's lips parted slightly, but no words came. Instead, she sat beside him. For a long time they said nothing, their bond speaking in the silence. But Marcus knew the battle was not over. The council might still rule against them, and if they did, he would have to choose again. Obey the law or fight for Kalira's life. Either way, the breaking point was near. The council deliberated for hours. In the quiet corridors of Haven's Reach, whispers spread among humans and aliens alike. Everyone wanted to know the outcome of Marcus Hale and Kalira's bond. Some were fearful, believing the pair had risked too much. Others were curious, sensing that something extraordinary had happened. Inside their quarters, Marcus and Kalira waited. The room was dimly lit, the soft blue nightlight casting long shadows on the walls. Marcus paced nervously, the weight of what might come pressing down on him. Kalira sat cross-legged on the floor, her hands resting on her knees, calm yet tense. The bond between them hummed quietly, a thread of connection that neither wanted to sever. Marcus felt her thoughts brushing his own, soft and hesitant. Do you think they will separate us? She asked silently. Marcus shook his head. I don't know. But whatever they decide, I won't let go. She gave a faint nod, her dark eyes reflecting starlight. And if they force us apart, then we will fight, Marcus replied simply. We survive together, Kalira. That is what it means to be human. Minutes stretched into hours. Then a knock at the door interrupted the silence. Commander Rel stepped inside, his expression unreadable. Behind him were two council representatives and a security officer. Marcus Hale, Kalira of Lyris, Rel began, his voice steady. The council has reached a decision regarding your anchor bond. Please listen carefully. Marcus took a deep breath. Kalira's hand found his under the table, cool and reassuring. He squeezed gently. The council representative spoke first, a tall alien with translucent skin. We have studied the bond. We have witnessed the strength it creates, and we have noted the dangers. Another counselor, a human woman, continued. It is clear that your bond is not ordinary. It has changed both of you, yes, but in ways we did not anticipate. You have survived the trial. You have endured the silence and emerged stronger. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Stronger. That was exactly what he had hoped. The first counselor cleared his throat. The council has decided to allow the bond to continue. You will remain together. You are not to be punished. However, you will be monitored for safety, and your bond will be studied for the benefit of all species. Kalira's eyes widened. Marcus's breath caught. He had expected arguments, restrictions, perhaps even exile, but not acceptance. You allow it? Marcus whispered, almost unable to believe the words. Kalira's lips curved into the smallest smile. Yes, we can stay together. Commander Rel nodded. The bond is unusual, but we cannot deny its strength. Let it be a model for future understanding, provided it is approached carefully. Marcus exhaled, relief flooding through him. Thank you, he said quietly. More to Kalira than to anyone else. She reached for his hand again, holding it in hers. Thank you for staying, for choosing me. The days following the council's decision were quiet but charged with a new energy. Marcus and Kalira adapted to the changes in their lives. No longer hiding their bond, they explored it openly, learning more about each other and themselves. Marcus found he could anticipate Kalira's moods, her thoughts blending seamlessly with his own. She, in turn, discovered the depths of human resilience, the way Marcus could endure fear, pain, and uncertainty without losing hope. Together, they formed a rhythm that carried them beyond ordinary limits. The station staff, initially wary, grew accustomed to their presence. Some even sought them out, curious about the bond, wanting to learn how two different minds could work in harmony. Marcus explained carefully, using simple words describing trust, patience, and shared understanding. Kalira demonstrated focus and discipline, showing that even alien species could benefit from connection. One evening, Marcus and Kalira sat by the viewport, staring into the infinite stars beyond. The station was quiet, the hum of engines steady in the background. Do you ever wonder, Marcus said softly, what it would be like if we were back on your world? Kalira tilted her head, considering. I would not survive the silence there. Not without you. And here I have learned something new, something humans call hope. Marcus smiled faintly. Hope? That's what got us through the trial. That's what kept us alive. Her eyes glimmered with reflection. And your courage. You were afraid, yet you stood with me. That is a human quality I have come to admire. Marcus felt warmth spread through him. You've taught me as much as I've taught you. About endurance, about connection, about life. Kalira reached out, resting her hand on his cheek. The contact was gentle but electric. He felt her emotions clearly. Relief, trust, and something deeper. Something almost like gratitude for existence itself. I never expected this, Kalira whispered. I never thought I could be happy again. Marcus's lips curved into a faint smile. Neither did I, but here we are. Weeks passed and their bond continued to grow. The council's study of their connection led to new understanding across species. Humans were recognized as uniquely resilient partners for the Lyris, capable of enduring and adapting to extreme psychic bonds. Other species began to explore cooperative bonds inspired by Marcus and Kalira's example. The station itself changed. Haven's Reach became a symbol of unity, a place where differences were respected and collaboration was celebrated. Marcus and Kalira were at the center of this transformation, living proof that connection, not fear, was the strongest force in the galaxy. One morning Marcus awoke to find Kalira watching him from the window. Her eyes followed the stars, but when she saw him stir, she turned her gaze to him, smiling softly. Good morning, Marcus said, his voice still rough from sleep. Good morning, Kalira replied. She moved closer and placed a hand on his shoulder. You sleep well? Better than ever, Marcus said. He paused, even knowing what could have happened. I'm glad I chose to stay with you. Kalira's eyes glimmered with light. And I with you. Together, we have faced the silence and survived. That is a bond no law, no fear can undo. Marcus leaned back, looking out the viewport at the endless stars. It's funny, isn't it? I came here to fix machines, to repair systems. And instead I fixed something much more important. Your life. And mine. Kalira rested her head gently on his shoulder. And we will continue to fix each other every day. The stars outside shimmered like diamonds, infinite and eternal. And in that quiet moment, Marcus realized something profound. Humanity was not defined by technology, by strength, or by conquest. It was defined by courage, by compassion, and by the willingness to connect. It was defined by the choice to stay, even when it was dangerous. Days turned into months. The bond strengthened, but neither Marcus nor Kalira felt the strain it had brought at first. The trial had taught them endurance. The breaking point had taught them courage. And the human answer, their choice to remain together, had taught them love, in the simplest and truest sense. Together, they explored the station, shared meals, worked on repairs, and studied the stars. They laughed, debated, and learned each other's languages, not just spoken words, but feelings, thoughts, and instincts. Through their connection, other crew members began to understand that differences were not weaknesses. The humans, Lyris, and other species grew closer, building a community stronger than any single race could achieve alone. One evening, as the station rotated slowly around the distant sun, Marcus and Kaylira stood at the central observation deck. The view was breathtaking. Swirling galaxies, distant planets, and the endless darkness of space stretching beyond comprehension. Kaylira turned to Marcus, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Do you think we'll ever leave this place?" Marcus smiled, his hand finding hers. "It doesn't matter where we go. As long as we're together, we can face anything." She nodded, her grip firm. "Yes, together we can face the silence, the unknown, and every danger that comes." The bond between them pulsed quietly, a rhythm as natural as breathing. They did not need to speak the words, they felt them, shared them, understood them, and in that moment Marcus knew. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or machines. It was in the heart, in courage, in connection. The human answer had been shown, not just to Kaylira, not just to the Council, but to the universe itself.